Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining Attendance Works, the Institute for Educational Leadership and campaign partners for the 2025 Attendance Awareness Campaign. My name is Jaden, and I will be your tech host. Before we begin, I want to share some tips to engage on today's call. Use the chat box to make comments and access resources that we may share. To ask questions, please use the Q&A feature found on the black toolbar. You can adjust your volume to your own preferred setting. The quality of the audio will be based on everyone's individual bandwidth. If you like closed captioning, click on the captioning function on the black toolbar, also at the bottom. After this webinar is over, you will receive the recording link, the slides, and all mentioned resources within the next 72 hours. Lastly, I want to encourage you all to tweet and share what you're learning by using the hashtag here today, ready for tomorrow. Once again, thank you for joining today's webinar, Student Connectedness Fosters Attendance and Engagement. I'm now going to hand things over to Kwesi Rollins, Chief Program Officer of the Institute of Educational Leadership, Chair and Advisory Board Member for Attendance Works.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Kwesi Rollins at the Institute for Educational Leadership, and there's great interest in this. This is number 4 of the series of our attendance awareness campaign for this year's series, webinar 4, and we save one of the most important topics for last. Family engagement lays the foundation for attendance and learning. Go to the next slide. And we can go to the next slide. I'll introduce Hetty in a minute. So about IEL, Institute for Educational Leadership, a longtime partner of Attendance Works and also the home for the Coalition for Community Schools, is as you can see in my virtual background, we believe in changing systems through people, through deep partnership. We're 60 plus years old, and we've been trying to be part of the solution as it relates to education transformation, improvement, and to change outcomes for the better for children, youth, and families through innovative strategies, leadership development, community building, etc. Next slide. Attendance Works advances student success in school and beyond by reducing chronic absenteeism. Attendance Work has been now the nation's primary thought leader on this issue, bringing it onto the radar and now working closely with folks to advance better policy, better practice, and to promote meaningful and effective communication and research. Attendance Works has been the go-to place on this issue since its launch in 2010 and remains so. And you can find out more by visiting the Attendance Works website. Next slide. Thanks to all of our convening partners for this year's campaign. Campaign for grade level reading, communities in schools. You can see their logos: Healthy Schools Campaign, Future Ed, Everyone Graduates, Learning Heroes, Mentor, the National League of Cities, and the United Way. And you can find a full list of campaign partners at the national and state level on our website. Please go to the next. So today's agenda, we're right in the middle of it, why family engagement matters for attendance. We'll hear some opening remarks and context setting from Hetty in a few moments. And then we've got an incredible panel that will walk us through some of their strategies for strengthening family and community engagement. We'll hear from folks teaching and learning in South Polk, Iowa, Joe Ellen Latham. We'll hear from Linda Chavez at Paris Union High School District. We'll hear from Tara Obarski, Wicomico County, and we'll also hear from her colleague James Hessen, also Supervisor of Family and Community Engagement at Wicomico County Schools in Maryland. And then we'll take questions, answers, and some closing reflections. Next slide. This is the 4th in the series. As you've seen, all of the webinars are available online. And you can find them at this link, and this one will also join that group shortly thereafter. Next slide. 5 key messages for this year. A problem-solving approach driven by data to improve attendance is what we're encouraging. We want to engage parents and guardians as vital partners. We need to create safe, connected, and engaged learning environments. We also need to support the health and well-being of students, family, and school staff. We've got to involve the whole community if we're going to move the needle on this issue in all of our strategies, in our planning, and in our actions. Next slide. Special thanks to campaign sponsors, for supporting this particular webinar, Kaiser Permanente Talking Points. Next slide. And welcome to a new attendance awareness campaign partner, Parents for Public Schools. Very important new partner. Next slide. And all of this is made possible through lots and lots of resources, people resources, time resources, and money, of course, is not a resource to be taken lightly. Anything you donate today, becoming a regular donor, I myself as a member of the advisory board, but even if I wasn't, am a regular monthly donor to this effort. We feel like it's very important, and we rely on contributors like you to keep all of our resources and our supports free for everyone. So join the movement today and donate. Use the QR code you can see on this slide with your phone. Next slide. Our slogan for this year, here today, ready for tomorrow. It's been the right slogan with all that's happening in this nation and the world today. We've got to show up for kids, and we've got to make sure that they want to come to school and have the supports they need to get there. I think one more slide. Yes. And so the slogan highlights the roles that schools play in promoting student well-being and achievement, connects school attendance to realizing our hopes and dreams, and emphasizes the link between regular attendance and a well-prepared next generation workforce. And with that, I think we go now to Hetty Chang, our fearless leader, executive director of Attendance Works, my good friend and colleague, and she's going to give us a little bit of context and set the stage nationally before we go on to our presenters. Hetty?
Thank you so much, Kwesi. So appreciate being able to join you today and all these amazing folks who are here. I think we almost have, I see over 1,600 people already on this webinar. Pretty exciting. Can we go to the next slide? So first of all, I just want to remind everyone, chronic absence is really an urgent national crisis. It nearly doubled during the pandemic. This is now data that's being taken from states. It's what's on the Return to Learn tracker by AI, which allows us to still monitor what's happening with chronic absence, even though even as we are trying to see what happens with federal data, we have state data that we can continue to monitor and look at. And you can see chronic absence nearly doubled. It's starting to decrease, but it's not decreasing nearly fast enough. And if we go to the next slide, I want to just remind folks about why this matters so much. So chronic absence matters because when kids aren't in school, then it affects their ability to read at the end of third grade, achieve in middle school, graduate from high school. And it's not just the academics, it affects social emotional development, executive functioning. And if you go to the next slide, and also actually before you go to the next slide, let me just say one other thing. It's not just the academics of individual kids. When you have large numbers of kids chronically absent, the churn is affecting the ability of teachers to teach, kids to learn, classroom norms. Next slide, please. So I want to make sure that people are clear that we actually have multiple attendance terms. We're going to focus mostly on chronic absence because that is what we've been trying to move to get people to notice when kids miss too much school for any reason. We want folks to look at that, using it as a prevention problem-solving approach. This is really about, in keeping with this webinar, starting with family and student engagement so we can find out why kids are missing school. And that's different from truancy, which is what we've done for 150 200 years in this country, which tends to focus on individual compliance with school laws. It only looks at unexcused absences, tends to think about, well, threatening kids with more legal action, although that certainly there have been a little bit movement to shift folks to more preventative approaches, even within the truancy field as well. And then this is different from average daily attendance, which looks at how many kids typically show up each day. It helps you notice particular days or times in the year when things are challenging, but it masks when you are seeing kids chronically absent so that you can take early and immediate action. Next slide. So the key to reducing chronic absence is understanding the root cause. Is it barriers? Is it aversion? Is it disengagement? is it misconceptions? And certainly while some of these things have changed a little bit during the pandemic, the big buckets hold true. And one of the things that we see is especially important is recognizing how important it is to look at aversion and disengagement, particularly post-pandemic. Because when we start with engaging kids and families, then that allows us to build the relationships that help us understand the barriers that they're facing and help them feel open to supports from schools around those barriers. And it also helps us to address those kinds of misconceptions that they might have, that showing up to school every day doesn't really matter when it truly still does, or thinking that you need to stay home for any sign of illness when, for example, a stomach ache might be anxiety. But when you focus particularly on aversion and disengagement, that allows you to actually address all of these root causes. And if you go to the next slide, I wanted to show this emerging research from Chicago that really shows that school climate, that how kids feel, but also how parents feel about school. Do they trust teachers? Are they part of decision making? Matters so much in improving attendance. And if you can see in this slide, the orange was pre-pandemic, the blue is post-pandemic. These aspects of climate and culture matter even more now. And if you go to the next slide, what they found was whether schools had positive school climates with their students and with their parents, that mattered even more than the neighborhood in which that child resided, because Chicago school choice. And if you go to the next slide, we have new research coming out of California from Kevin G, who saw that when you, as part of the work in California, schools actually have to rate themselves, talk about their family engagement strategies and rate them. When school districts rated themselves higher on their ability to engage families, that was associated with lower levels of chronic absence for English language learners and for kindergartners. Next slide. So what do we mean by family engagement? Broadly defined, it's a partnership between families, educators, and community partners to support children's learning and development. But we really want to unpack what we mean by it and what does it look like to establish that partnership. Jaden, can you play our video here? And I want to mention that this is a video from Flamboyant. It is a parent-teacher home visiting partnership that they're reflecting on. I don't think the sound is showing. So Jaden, can we try that one more time? Because I'm not hearing sound. I think we have to make sure that when you share, you have the sound enabled. I am so sorry on this, Jaden. We're going to give it one much more try, but I think you have to maybe stop screen sharing for a second and then start it and enable sound. I appreciate you guys' patience with our technical challenges. Sometimes that happens, but there's so much power in this video. We really want to make sure that you can hear it. And it's really amazing with the Flamboyant Project and the parent-teacher home visiting, how much they were able to really capture in this incredible video that we think helps everyone think about what does true family engagement look like.
Jaden, let me share screen and then I can show the video because it's playing fine on mine.
And just enable the sound, Kwesi. Yep.
It's sure thing.
One thing I can say about, stagnant period is that it is constant communication, something I never had, something I completely enjoy. And it's not just negative communication, it's constant positive communication. I can be here at home, at work, anywhere, and one of my teachers would send me a text. Or I used to love it, Miss Lucas would send pictures. Take pictures of them doing classwork and She said, well, see, look how my Tanae, well, I call her Bird. The school calls her Bird, which I love. It's like a community. They adopted her nickname. So she would send me a text like, look at Bird. She's having a wonderful day today and she's doing good. But in saying that, that allowed me to hear it put a trust. I put a trust in Miss Lucas for doing that. So no matter what she said, how she had to say it, what the information is, it made it easier for me to receive it from her. Because she had built this communication, this trust that I've never had. One day today had a bad day. And she called me and I was expecting to get something good. Oh, yeah, she got good on her test, so she did read. She's like, well, we had a bit of an issue today. I'm like, for real? What happened? Well, today did X, Y, and Z. And I didn't get defensive. I didn't get, well, what do you do? Or what did I actually stepped back and I listened. I received the information. And I processed the information. And we actually got to a place where we worked together. I said, well, you know what? So she's having a bad day, can we put it on the phone? Yeah. And I spoke with her on the phone and I let her know that me and Miss Lucas are working together. We are a team, and if she asks you to do something, you need to treat it as if mommy is asking you to do something. So she asked you to sit down, and you sit down. And there was no more problems with it.
All right. So that is our video, and as Jaden puts up the rest of the PowerPoint, if you want to just any reactions, thoughts, I love the charts. We just thought that was such a powerful example of how when you as a school are constantly engaging and supporting families, it sets up the conditions for success so that, because inevitably challenges occur and you got to be able to talk to families to solve that. And that's what then allows us that relationship to work together to improve what happens with kids. So if you go to the next slide, keep going, Jaden. Keep going. We see family engagement as an integral part of every section, every aspect, every tier of a multi-tiered system of supports. It's part of the universal, whether that's your messaging, your positive communications, your two-way communications, whether it's about using things like our help banks so families can think about what are the kinds of ways they can support each other in getting to school. It's about having family resource centers and community schools where families can get basic needs. It's about making sure that attendance engagement is integrated. Conversations about attendance are integrated into every meeting with family, including parent-teacher conferences. It's about things like the parent-teacher home visiting project, which really makes sure that families, teachers are reaching out to families at the beginning of school just to establish a positive relationship, to hear about kids' hopes and dreams, families' hopes and dreams for their kids. That's universal. But then family engagement is also part of tier 2. It's how you work with respect in those individualized conversations about how do you overcome attendance barriers, it's also about how you word letters that go to families, which talk about kids' attendance. And then family engagement is also a part of the tier 3. So we hope you'll really see how this is part of all tiers of engagement through this webinar. And if you go to the next slide, Jaden, this is really about changing the power dynamics with students and families. And let's click first. It's about moving from saying, I'm just going to approach a family only to address a problem, to click again. Outreach focuses on building a relationship. So the first time, and you heard this from that parent, a teacher talks to a family isn't about a problem. It's about establishing a relationship. Next. It's about going from one-way messaging to families to next, to starting with learning with families, finding about their hopes, dreams, and engaging in two-way communications. Next. It's about focusing only on barriers to leveraging student and family strengths to see how we can overcome challenges. Next. It's about not presuming that we have all the answers and know what's best, to collaborating with families and encouraging practices that build upon their assets and priorities. And this is what I hope you will really see taken into action as we hear from our panelists today. Go to the next slide, please. So our panelists, we have an amazing set of educators who are here to talk to us. We have Jo Ellen Latham. She's the Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning in Southeast Polk. You'll hear more about what she does, but what I am so appreciating is that we have an Associate Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. She gets, this isn't just what happens with student supports. This is about how we support learning and teaching for everyone. And as you'll hear, they have an incredible focus on engaging parents. Not parents, teachers to engage parents and families. Lindsay Chavez is going to be joining us. She's the Director of Learning Supports and Learning Support Services from Paris Union High School in California. And one of the things that's really great about Lindsay is that she has been a principal. She's really seen this. So then when she's helping principals do this work, she's keeping that experience in mind. And then we have Tara Obarski and James Hessen. Tara is now the Director of School Climate and Safety, and James is the Supervisor for Family, Community, and School Programs in Wacomico. This is out of Maryland. What's so wonderful about Tara and James is their commitment to working across departments to ensure a cross-district approach of working with families and using technology to support that cross-district approach. So I'm so excited about what we're all going to learn from them today. And we're going to start, if you go to the next slide, by first getting you a little bit of a grounding in each of our communities. We're going to ask each person, we're going to go across all three communities, and we'll ask, starting with Southeast Polk, we're going to ask Jo Ellen to tell us about her district and the decreases they've seen in chronic absence. So let's start with Jo Ellen.
Right. Thank you, Hetty. As Hetty said, my name is Jo Ellen Latham. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning at Southeast Polk Schools. So you'll see information about us on the next slide. And we are a district of about 7,500 students, pre-K through 12, and we are just on the eastern side of Des Moines. So we are right next to them, and part of our district encompasses Des Moines. And if you look at the next slide, you will see that, like many schools, and what Hetty mentioned, our chronic absenteeism nearly doubled over COVID. And we were having a tough time chipping away at that in the years following that. But last year, we engaged more of a systemic effort across our district, hoping to get below the 20% mark, and our chronic absenteeism came in at 14%. So we were really thrilled with those improvements. And as Hetty mentioned, I oversee teaching and learning. So on the next slide, you can see why this is so important. When we saw those improvements, I'm happy. What made me the happiest is we improved at every grade level and in every demographic group. So it wasn't just one school or one pocket. It was all the way across the board. And on the next slide, you will see the impact of that. Being from teaching and learning, we know that in order for students to learn, they need to be in school. Our teachers put great learning opportunities out there, and but kids need to be in school to maximize that. So you can see I just selected 3 grade levels, the changes in chronic absenteeism from 24 to 25, and the improvements that we saw in achievement. So every day matters. And every day matters for us in terms of providing positive learning experiences for our students. We want them there. We need them at school so that they can continue to learn.
Thank you, Jo Ellen. And that we're going to get more into what allowed for that big jump. That's so impressive. And I'm so glad you can help to quantify for people why this matters in the core academic achievement that we want in schools. With that, I would like to invite Lindsay Chavez to join us and tell us a little bit about Paris. So let's go to the next slide too. And Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Chavez, Director of Learning Support Services at the Paris Union High School District. Paris is located east of Los Angeles and Orange County in Southern California. And in our district, we serve about 11,000 students. We are a high school district, and so we have one middle school, and we have 4 comprehensive high schools, adult transition program, and an alternative school setting, and also an online academy. Our students are over 70% free and reduced lunch, and we do serve a high population of English language learners, as well as first generation college-bound students. Now, over the past 3 years, and we can go to the next slide, Hetty, or thank you. Over the last few years, we've seen steady decreases in our chronic absence. According to our California dashboard or accountability system, we did end with 41%, which is quite high. But as you can see, we're seeing a steady decrease in our chronic absence. And although we know we have much more to go, it's really letting us know that the work that we've been doing intentionally to support attendance improvement is working. And we hope to continue to enhance and improve upon that. Guided by our superintendent's priorities, we are working towards an ambitious goal of reaching a minimum 94% ADA and reducing chronic absentees across all of our student groups. Now, it's important to note that family and community engagement is just one vital facet of our broader attendance improvement plan. Although we are really, really proud and excited of the work that we do and engaging our community in this effort to improve attendance.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. And I will say, even though I know that feels like you might want even bigger improvements, what I'm seeing from national data and what I'm hearing from many states is while, because you're a high school district, because I want to remind people, and one of the things we thought it was so important to have Lindsay here is she's a high school district, and we sometimes don't think about family engagement with high school kids, and yet it is so crucial. We're also seeing that high school chronic absence is stubbornly high. It is really hard. We're seeing most states really struggling to get it down. So the fact that you're going in the right direction is so critical and why we want to learn from you. All right, with that, I'm going to go to Comco. So you can everyone get a little bit of a sense from James and Tara about what who Comco is and what are they seeing. So James, please.
All right, thanks so much, Eddie, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Hessen with the Wycomico County Public Schools. I'm also joined here with my supervisor, Dr. Tara Obarski, and we have been working the last few years on just like what everybody else has been working on and focusing on is decreasing chronic absenteeism. As you can see, Wycomico County Schools, we are located in Wycomico County, which is that little red blurb on the side there of Maryland. We're about 2 hours east of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and about 2 hours south of Philadelphia. Currently, we have about 16,000 students enrolled in our pre-K through 12 programs, as well as our schools here. We have a very high ML population that is coming into Wycomico County. A lot of Spanish-speaking families and also our Haitian Creole-speaking families as well. So that is another layer that we have to work towards to ensure that we are reaching all of our families with communications and making sure that everyone is on the same page. We are comprised of about 64% free reduced meals, and we do have a really unique set of circumstances here where we do have schools that are in our urban areas. And we also have schools that are kind of 30 minutes outside in our more rural areas. So we can be very spread out. Next slide, please. As you can see here, in 2022, that is kind of the highlight of everyone's slides. We were about 38% chronic absenteeism. And what you can see is a steady decline between 2023 and 2024 last year. You're also going to see another decline this coming year. And one of the reasons why we had this decline is, schools opening back up, and we also had a lot of participation with our families, making sure that we're engaging our families, using different tools that we see necessary to ensure that we're communicating with our families. Our schools are nearly one-to-one with personnel workers, and they are the advocates and the liaisons between the district and the school and the parents to ensure that all of the information is getting out and chronic absenteeism numbers are falling. Next slide. And this graphic right here kind of represents the work that we have done over the last few years. As you can see, the column all the way to the right, the green is last year's chronic absenteeism data. And you can see that our percentages are all in the green. We are starting to come down with the exception of one area. But we also celebrate and make sure that we celebrate our schools that came down in the lowest numbers, as you can see with our elementary, middle, and our high schools. Dr. Obarski, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now you all have a feel for what we're doing. We're going to go back to Southeast Polk. You all are getting a lesson in geography, the parts of the country. Maybe you've never been to Des Moines. Maybe you've never been to Maryland. Maybe you've never been to California. You're going to start seeing these different parts of our country that maybe you haven't heard, but chronic absence is a challenge, and chronic absence solutions are happening in every region of this country. So let's go to the next slide. Let's keep going. We're going to really delve deep into what are some of the key strategies, and we're going to have Joellen come back and join us talking about what's going on in Southeast Polk. How did you get that big reduction, Joellen?
Well, thanks, Hetty. And as we had seen, like many other schools across the United States, we were just chipping away at that, and we weren't getting the results that we just wanted to see. So we have a really strong teacher leadership structure in our district at Southeast Polk, and we decided to tap into that and maximize that. We know that teachers are more influenced by their peers and other teachers than they are by us as administrators. So we really wanted to let those teacher leaders shine, and we put together teacher leadership task forces to align with our district goals. And this was the goal of the task force that was assigned the task of improving student attendance. So you can see what our goal looks like, addressing those barriers, promoting that positive school culture, and fostering partnerships with families and communities. So on the next slide, you can see that we had, within that teacher leadership task force, we had 3 work groups. And one group really looked at accessing and using attendance data. The second group really focused on those evidence-based practices, and the third group focused on those very important family-school partnerships. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time highlighting what each of those work groups did. On the next slide, with accessing and using attendance data, we are so fortunate in the state of Iowa that we have a technology platform called Panorama, and it is available to all schools in Iowa. But as we dug in, I knew I used it all the time, but I learned very quickly that very few schools and staff knew how to access and use that data. So part of our task force work was to build capacity and teach all staff on how to access data around attendance. So in that platform, we're able to see live data within 24 hours by district, by school, by grade level, by student. We can see trends and patterns, both improving and declining, and we can see data by demographic group and performance. So if you look at the next slide, these are just a few screenshots of what you can see. So there is a data dashboard that you'll see when you get into Panorama, and you can see some of your numbers right away. You can see what the chronic absent rate is currently right now. You can see what the monthly trend is, what the last few days are, what the last week is, but we're able to access that data very quickly. And on the next slide, go back one slide. If you can see over on the left-hand corner, that allows us to look at it by every building, by every grade level, and by every demographic group. We can even find the students who are persistently at risk for meeting their reading goals, and we can run a report on those students and what their attendance looks like. So it's by performance and it's by grade level group as well. So on the next slide, the second work group was worked on evidence-based practices, and their big focus was to make our classrooms welcoming to all students. One way is to provide students with the leadership opportunities so that student leaders could influence their peers on coming to school. As Hetty mentioned earlier, what were those barriers to attendance? Our district covers a significant geographic region, and we wanted to make sure all students had attendance or transportation opportunities to get to school. We implemented a tiered intervention model depending on what the needs are, and we provide regular check-ins with targeted students and include strategies such as the 2x10 strategy to intentionally build relationships with students. On the next slide, you are able to see that in Panorama, we are able to group students together, and we might group some students together and say, we're going to do a 2x10 strategy with this group. We're going to be champions for this group. We're going to have family engagement meetings with this group. We're going to send nudges to this group. And then we can track changes by those groups of students based on the intervention that we have put in place. So that kind of marries the evidence-based practice with that accessing data and how those two work together to give us real-time information on the impact that it's having.
Joellen, can you briefly say what a 2x10 strategy is?
Sure. That is a 2-minute conversation with a targeted student 10 days in a row. And that 2-minute conversation might be, tell me about your family. Do you have any pets at home? Is there a favorite ball team that you follow? So targeting a specific student 2 minutes a day, 10 days in a row, and it's had a very positive impact. On the next slide, you will see our third task force, and that is about family school partnerships. And one thing that we learned is that we have a lot of online systems. We have Canvas, we have our student information system, our assessment system, but not all families knew how to navigate our systems. So providing support in that area, again, making those personal connections, using multiple language and format. Some prefer email, some prefer text messages, some prefer telephone calls, but finding out that what that preferred communication is, connecting families to resources within our community, and then developing solutions together. Again, oftentimes when the family comes in, they think maybe they're in a punitive situation, but we know that we want your kids in school, you want your kids in school. How can we work together to make that happen? And acknowledge when we see that improvement. We also learned that where we were slipping a little is when students transitioned from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school. So we are doing more work with family and school partnerships to support those transitions.
And Joellen, who's doing this? Is it your teachers? Who's doing the family school partnerships?
The family school partnership, most of the people on the task force are our school counselors. And so they are working together. They are leading that work, but they are working with some of the advisory groups that the teachers who support that. So they're shoulder tapping other teachers to support that, but it is primarily led by our school counselors.
All right. Okay, we're going to keep going. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end, but we're right now giving you all a feel for the different strategies going on. I think we're going to go back to Lindsay.
All right.
So let's go back to Paris. If you'll remember, this is California, Riverside, California, and a high school district. So Lindsay, tell us about what's enabling Paris to get its reductions in chronic absence.
Absolutely. Thank you again. So here in the Paris Union High School District, we've embedded our attendance supports within our community schools partnership program. That means that we focus on, handling this challenge of increasing attendance through integrated support services, through mental health supports, food, housing, transportation. We've also we also take a look at it through expanded and enriched learning opportunities in the classroom, after school, during our Saturday academies. Also through collaborative leadership, through our site teams, our district attendance teams, and then of course, the strong family and community engagement. Here at Paris, attendance is all together work. All of these different support teams with our clerks, our techs, our attendance specialists, our teachers, our counselors, our site administrators, and of course, our community liaisons. Now, we have really expanded our parent partnerships. If we can go to the next slide, please. And, again, all together work. It's just one small piece of our overall attendance plan. And our next slide. Here we go. All right. So when we address our attendance needs through the lens of family and community engagement, we want to expand our parent partnerships and the opportunities to provide feedback, and also just to inform us of what the challenges are within our community. So these are just some of the parent advisory committees that we have in our district. We have our English learner advisories, our African American advisories. We have a budget committee, our safety committees, of course, our school site councils, but one of our committees that is the most active in the work of attendance is our community schools parent advisory committees. Each of our school sites has this group where we discuss the challenges of attendance and also student achievement. Our families inform us of the challenges that are occurring in the community, and then together we come up with solutions. And this has really expanded the capacity of not only our teams, our staff, but also our families who are out there in the community talking about the different things that we have within our district to support our families. This is led by our amazing team of community liaisons and engagement specialists who truly act as our trusted messengers to our community and bridging language and cultural gaps and providing that individualized supports to our families. We also offer several training opportunities and workshops. We just had an association called Love for Life in honor of Suicide Prevention Month. And they did a workshop on, on mental health and suicide. And that was a very well attended workshop that we had. Now, when we look for opportunities to provide parent workshops, of course, we have support for accessing grades and our student informational systems and how to clear absences or excuse absences, but also just in listening to our families who tell us that they have different challenges in terms of wellness, well-being for their students, then we're really able to create workshops and webinars that target those needs that our families tell us. We also recently held a nutrition workshop, for some of our families that have talked to us about food insecurities and challenges that they've had. And we reach out to our partners within the community, our Chamber of Commerce, our county mental health systems, our city governments, whoever we can find out there that's willing to provide support for our families so that they're well equipped to send their students to school. Something that we found is that our families and our school district, we have the same goal, and we want our students to be successful. We want our students to reach their greatest level of success. And we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs directly from what our families are telling us. And that's the support that we truly provide, and that we're extremely proud of really having our parents become our ambassadors in that work.
Lindsay, what I so love about what you're saying is you didn't create a new attendance initiative. You integrated attendance into everything that you do. And so you didn't create like a new parent advisory committee on attendance. You said, I'm going to take the community schools advisory committee and I'm going to make sure attendance, along with other issues, are what they directly address. And you're going to make sure that all these different community partners are then seeing themselves as part of the solution. Unfortunately, we tend to live in a world that we departmentalize and isolate our work when, as you said, all together is what we need to be. So appreciate how you've modeled what that could be. We're going to go to Wacomico. Tell us about, what are you doing there to get your reductions?
So excited about this. So we look at a district-wide approach rather than having individual silos, because one of the things that we notice is that the schools were typically kind of doing, one school was doing this, one school was doing that, one school was doing this. And what we did under Dr. Obarski's leadership. And when we say we, I mean Dr. Obarski. She really spearheaded the initiative to make sure that this is a district-wide approach based on what our superintendent's goals and what his mission and vision is. So Dr. Obarski actually, while she was the supervisor of family, community, and school programs, came up with what's known as the Arrive to Thrive campaign, which is an attendance campaign that we're employing here in the district. I'm continuing that work with actually a team of pupil personnel workers to ensure that attendance information is getting out there, that we're making sure that we're reaching our families where they are through various modes of communication, mostly through talking points and through contact and communication with our PPWs, our community school coordinators within the building, and just being part of that attendance process within the building setting. And what this attendance campaign, what our attendance campaign has done is motivated students attendance through positive incentives. One of our PBWs here at one of the middle school levels loves to, with increases of attendance, she loves to get the school band involved, and she will literally lead the cavalcade around the building, and the student band will play throughout the entire building, and it's really it's a motivating scene, but it's also a lot of fun, and it gets the kids really motivated into ensuring that that they're there, that they're present, and that there are certain incentives that do come with positive attendance and improving attendance.
Quick interruption on one thing. Can you say what a PPW is?
I'm
And
sorry,
can
yeah.
you say when you said one-on-one earlier on, what did you mean? Because I think you were referring to your PPWs then too.
One-to-one, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm thinking,
Oh, no, we all have our own acronyms from our
Yeah.
own states, and I'm just making sure that we all understand. So what's
Got
a
it. So
PPW and what?
when I say a PPW is a pupil personnel worker, and essentially what we do, and I came out of the PPW world. What we do is we are the advocates, the liaisons, and the consultants between the school, the family, and the district. So we can kind of map out certain plans, and we can kind of come up with plans in place to make sure that students are where they're supposed to be, enrolled in the proper school, that they are attending school, their appropriate school, and different things that kind of come into play, which is kind of what I'm going to talk about with root analysis, the attendance support teams. But we actively, our PPWs are actively involved in the community and in the schools. And when I say that they're one-to-one, we're nearly one-to-one. We have a few PPWs that are shared between two schools. But mostly we are one-to-one with our pupil personnel workers in the schools. And that's been a driving force with a lot of the change that we've been seeing with our attendance over the last couple of years. And that really started up about last year.
We have 24 schools in the district, and we have 22 PPWs. So we are almost one PPW for every school, and that allows them to really hone their focus in on a smaller population so that their impact can be much more significant.
But what I'm hearing, Tara and James, is that you're not, because sometimes people make the mistake of having it all be case management. They have that one person and they're case managing 40 kids. You're saying it's one-to-one so that the PPW, like your example of the band, is that's not a case management approach. That's a school culture approach. So they're helping each school have its own comprehensive plan about how to improve attendance.
And it's allowed us to, like I said, have a more significant impact, because as you saw from our data, we still have 22% of our population is chronically absent, which is still about 3,000 students. So when you divide that by 22 PPWs who can then really kind of hone in on a smaller group of students who are at risk of being chronically absent to try to mitigate that, it's been very beneficial, and we're very thankful to the district for supporting that increase in resources.
A couple more minutes and let's hear the rest of your strategy here.
Absolutely. So the root cause analysis and the attendance support team kind of go together. So I'm going to kind of cover them together. So the root cause analysis is really where, as a pupil personnel worker or someone that's working with trying to identify what the root cause of issues are, this is what we really start to try to find out. We start to really elaborate on why students aren't where they're supposed to be, why aren't they attending school, try to get down to the nitty gritty, so to speak, talking to the parents, finding out if there's certain insecurities, food insecurities, hygiene, anything that kind of goes along with why they wouldn't be attending school. Housing instability is also another thing that we also deal with quite frequently here in Wycomico County. And what we do, what PPWs do, and also our community school coordinators, is we connect those families to those resources. Okay, so we don't enable them. We try to empower them as much as possible to try to make the decisions that are best for their family and for their students. Also, along with the root cause analysis comes our approach to dealing with chronic absenteeism at the building level. Now, this is a district-wide approach, but at the building level, we are focusing our attendance teams to meet weekly or bi-weekly to make sure that we're addressing the needs of our students, the chronic absenteeism, the average daily attendance, which we know there's certain things that we're looking at. We have to go back to that root cause, like why is James not attending school? What is going on? So our building level support teams are really comprised of our administrators, principals or APs or deans, the pupil personnel workers, the community school coordinators, and also our homeschool liaisons. Each one of our schools and each one of our programs has a homeschool liaison that partners with the pupil personnel worker that will address the root causes, but also address any of the family's concerns or the school's concerns when it relates to missing 3, 5, 10, so forth days throughout the marking term. So this is really, this team that we're talking about is kind of a cross-functional team where we're looking at students on a case-by-case basis, not necessarily managing case-by-case, but looking at them as a case-by-case basis, their own unique issues that's going on within their lives, and try to come up with solutions that can ensure that those students in school are in school. So lastly, our last real approach is through our truancy reduction program. This is through the First Circuit Court. And what this is, and this is not a non-punitive approach to dealing with chronic absenteeism and truancy. So rather than getting the parents deeply involved in the court system, which that's a last resort, what we try to do with the truancy reduction program, or TRP, is to provide our families with using the judicial system to help our families. The wraparound services that we can't provide or we can't refer to, the First Circuit Court can actually refer families to those wraparound services, and we kind of manage it more as an intervention rather than a punitive approach to dealing with chronic absenteeism, and in this particular instance, truancy.
Thank you so much, James. I'm going to keep us moving. The next question is actually how you use technology as part of that work. So since that is such an integral part of your approach, can you let's go to the next slide and talk about how technology is used.
Okay. Yeah, we are lucky enough to have an IT department here that is very fluid with our abilities to leverage technology. And one of the primary systems that we use is X2 Aspen. It's a FOLET project. That's our SIS, our student information system. And that is where the pupil personnel workers, the attendance teams, really can drill down on attendance data. We can run reports, principals' daily attendance. We can run principals' attendance reports, our average daily reports, or average daily attendance reports. And what we try to do is we utilize that homeroom attendance information to start drilling down, to get down to the root causes, like why is a student habitually truant? Why are they dismissed so often? Why are they missing periods of time during the day? So we use that information to provide the communication tool, which is actually a robocall that the parents will get. But we also use that to post the doctor, dental, and parent notes that we allow the parents to bring in to excuse absences. We also have a partnership right now with Talking Points, and Talking Points is really is a communication tool that we're using between families and the schools, both teacher-led, admin-led, and also staff-led. And we can communicate different things through Talking Points with what we have right now. We can communicate student attendance, incentive programs. We can start flushing out our Arrive to Thrive campaign information. It's a really good tool to use to disseminate as much information as possible very quickly in their home language.
Right. And that goes between a teacher and the parent, correct? As
Correct,
well as
yes,
administrators. So you're actually able to equip everyone on your school or in your district to communicate directly with parents in their home language.
That's perfectly said. Yeah. And then we've also partnered with Talking Points right now, and the attendance side of Talking Points or Talking Points attendance is going to be forthcoming in Wacomico County. We that we're going to use that to kind of monitor data trends and respond with appropriate communications in kind of more of a systematic approach where X2 asking we can run all of our reports and we can still use that data, but to be able to see it real live and kind of true to form as it comes in is what we're also looking forward to expand with Talking Points attendance. We use, excuse me, we use ThoroughShare, which is our direct link to social media with information in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. It's more building specific, but we also can post up district specific events and happenings like our last week we had our community school coordinator appreciation week. All that information went out through our director of communications. And lastly, and this is something Dr. Obarski put together, which I love, and I can't wait until we can actually do something like this. We do Dr. Obarski partnered with our director of communications and informal and formal leaders in the community to talk to students and actually bring them in to the fringe and actually involve them in making PSAs to promote attendance initiatives for the Arrive to Thrive campaign. And what that does is that forges the community with schools, and the students can see peers, they can see people that they know from the community, leaders in the community, talk about why it is so important for students to be in school and actively learning.
James, I have a question for you, because one of the things I think about technology is, on one hand, it allows us to get information out more quickly and effectively to parents. And if we have the right type of information, that's really great. But we also have a history, I think, about in truancy notifications of sometimes alienating families with the way that we talk to families about attendance and absences. And so you also run this risk that we have now effective communication, efficient, but actually what we're sending out is problematic and alienating. Wondering if you guys have had to look at that issue of how to make sure that the messaging, and I'm seeing Tara talk, can you speak a little to that?
Yes. When we started our Arrive to Thrive campaign last year, we looked at several things. We looked at policy and procedure. Are our interventions appropriate? Are they tiered? But we also looked at our nudges, at our messaging, and what that messaging looked like, and what was our intention in that messaging. So we actually made some changes to our nudges, our 3, 5, 10-day letters that are automated and come out, and then the messaging that comes out through Talking Points, we can also customize. And we changed those messages to be more positive in nature, so that it wasn't a punitive sounding, we don't want to ostracize the family or create that disconnect. We're trying to build relationships. So it was about positive messaging. It was about getting rid of the misconceptions, 2 days of absence a month. What does that really look like over time, types of things, and the impact of positive attendance on student outcomes. So we tried to really shift that message to something more positive in nature that really starts to build that culture of attendance across the board.
Thank you so much. And I'm now going to shift us over to Southeast Polk. We're moving back to Iowa, and I'm going to ask Joellen to come up because you used Panorama. And one of the things that I think, Joellen, that gets so challenging is we sometimes have data and data platforms, but not everyone knows how to look at them, use them. And in your case, you really got teachers using this platform, which again, kudos to Iowa Department of Education for making this available, but availability only gets you so far. The rest is how you on the ground make sure people are using it. So if you could talk more about that experience, that would be so fabulous.
Exactly. We are very fortunate to have Panorama. The Department of Education has purchased that. I noticed in the chat, a lot of people use different information systems. This one sits on top of our student information system. It sits on top of Infinite Campus, and it pulls the data points and interacts them. So I don't think it's the platform that you use as much as it is that you use the data that comes out of the platform. And we did need to do some training to do that. It's pretty intuitive. So we just needed to set up some sessions and get people using it. And then once they started using it, then they just took off with it. But what we learned is that if you can see over on the right side, you can run that data multiple ways. And if they're anything like me, I can go down rabbit holes with data. So we really started to work on what questions do you have and what questions would you like the data to answer. And so we put together monthly reports based on the data in Panorama. And we always put what the chronic absenteeism is for that month for the building, what it was a year ago. And then we choose one group from each building to watch. We said, this is your group to watch. And if you could improve this group by, if you could cut it in half, or if you could do this, your data would improve tremendously. And then during that month, they look at all of their groups, but they really hone in on their group to watch.
And when you say the they, Joellen, who's the they?
The they would be the building team. So we send this out to the buildings and we send it out to the principals and the teacher leaders who are on the task force from that building. And then they take that data and they put that into action in terms of how they're going to dig in and use that data so that they're looking at things, the whole picture every month, but they are seeing gains in their data by focusing in on a few groups and really getting in and digging in and seeing what that looks like. So getting very specific about one group actually helps then support all groups and apply that then to multiple groups and learn how to use the data in a productive and helpful way.
So the having of teacher leaders in your task force and on your building teams is not as something we hear as common. How did you make that possible? How do teachers even have the time to participate?
Well, we, again, the state of Iowa had a grant. I think we're in our 10th or 11th year of the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Grant. And so these teacher leaders have additional days on their contract. So our model teachers have 5 additional days and our instructional coaches have 10 additional days. So we're able to use those additional days to tap into their expertise to support attendance in our district.
Great. Thank you so much, Joellen. We're going to shift over now to Lindsay, talking from Paris, going back to California now. And Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about the technology supports that exist in your district?
Sure. So through the lens of family and community engagement, we have multiple ways for our families to use technology in order to find support or just to reach out if they have a question or help. Now, our district in Paris, we have a very wide range just within our district boundaries. We have rural areas, we also have suburban areas. And so there are some parts of our school district where internet connectivity is a challenge, where even having access to, computers or even something as simple as just a cell phone is something that not all of our families have. And so it's important for us to have different ways to engage with our families. In terms of technology, we have our Family Resource Hub. There's a little clip there of all the different QR codes because each school has one. And so if a family from that school scans a QR code, it's going to connect them to a number of different resources that's specific for their school. Our main communication platform between our schools and our families is Parent Square. And so we send out messages through Parent Square, not only from our community liaisons or the administrators at the school, but teachers can also communicate through Parent Square as well. It's also something utilized by our clubs, our athletic teams, and other organizations that we have at school. We have Peach Jar. We use a lot of social media within our school district. It's just something that is so easily accessed by our families. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later on when we talk about partnerships, but our families become our ambassadors. And so when questions come up in our social media posts, sometimes you'll see that our families are the ones answering for them because they're involved in our school community and it's really exciting. Of course, we have our student information system. We've provided QR codes, which is the simplest way to access our school sites, the technology that we have. And then for our families that don't have access to internet, we provide hotspots for them. We really want to really understand the needs of our families. And so we try to reach them where they're at. And we certainly blend it with some personal touch points, like having our community liaisons available at our school sites for support, and also our home visits that we do.
There's a quick question. What is Peach Jar?
Peach Jar is it's another opportunity for our community to advertise and provide supports. And so we may have some nonprofits in our area that want to advertise either tutoring support or food banks, different resources. And that's just another way for us to get resources out to our families is through Peach Jar.
Great. So Lindsay, we're going to stick with you for our last question here, and then we're going to go into some cross-cutting questions, and I have been seeing them in the chat. By the way, one other thing before I move, Lindsay, people wanted to see your flyers. Are you willing to make that available, and we can share that out when we share the resources from our webinar? Great. So the next question is, who are your partners in family engagement, and how do you engage them? And so we're going to have you talk first about this.
Sure. So our primary partners in this work are our families, our parents. Truly by listening to them and respecting their experiences and their challenges and connecting them with community resources through our community schools framework, we've built these really strong relationships that lead to better attendance. But our families truly become our ambassadors, and we go where they're at. And while we have our attendance supports in the offices of our schools, you might see an attendance booth, a community engagement booth at a football game, because we have a lot of parents that come to Friday Night Lights. And so we may have a little tent with some resources for families at our football games, or maybe at the opening of our fall play, we'll also have resources for families there. We go where our families are, and part of the work that our parent advisory committees do is to develop these ideas. How can we reach our community? The posters that you've seen that you like are part of an attendance campaign that we challenged each of our school site parent advisory committees to do. So not only did they create posters, but our parents were involved in distributing those posters around our community. Across the street from Paris High School, you might walk into the Starbucks and you'll see an attendance poster from Paris High School there. You'll see our families at drop-offs handing out information, handing out these promotional materials that they've created. There's a little video that's included in the slide deck, and we don't have to watch it now, but it's just a very short 30-second video, and you'll kind of see how our parents engage. You'll see our families in action in supporting our attendance initiatives. Our families truly are our partners, our main partners in this work. And they're the ones that are talking to other families and spreading the information in the community and truly helping us with getting our students in our classrooms.
So appreciate that. I'm curious, there's a question that's about high school students, which is, how do you motivate kids to attend when they're given the message that going to use their degree after high school, that they're not going to use that degree? And that, how do you really help to keep that messaging going on? Sometimes kids in high school think that I'm just going to start working. Why should I finish? Curious about, how do you message that, and how do you engage families in that messaging?
I love that question. A few years ago, we really shifted from college readiness to college and career readiness. And so when we have our college fairs, our college and career fairs, and we invite trade schools there, we invite our union partners, carpenters union partners, and different industries that are popular in our area, that are looking for people to come work with them. We provide those opportunities for them to come and meet our students, and our students to get information. Our seniors engage in senior interviews at the end of their school year, where we support them in creating cover letters and resumes. We do mock interviews. And when we do mock interviews, we invite members of our community to come and be the interviewers. Not only do we have partners from schools, from our community colleges, our four-year universities, our trade schools, but we have our business partnerships. We may have some people from our local Home Depot or some of our fast food areas that are, that are supporting students in these practice interviews. It happens so often that when we do our senior interviews, that students are offered jobs right then and there. And so we support students in whatever their goal is. And that really is one of the keys, is understanding what our students' goals are, understanding what the family's goal is for their student, and making sure that we provide those opportunities so that students can achieve that. If a family tells us, actually more recently, that we need more opportunities for career technical education, we have really looked into how can we expand the opportunities that we have for these CTE, we call it, in industries that our students want to work in, or industries that are hiring directly around in our area.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I'm gonna now, because I know we still need to get to Q&A. I'm gonna ask Wacomico to just really quickly give a quick overview, and also our friends over at maybe what we do is don't show slides, but hopefully we do have some slides on that, but just ask if we could have everyone on the screen. And then I'm wondering if both Southeast Polk and Wacomico could just add, beyond families, who are some of your key partners, and just give a few of those examples. And then when I want to go to some broader questions that are coming up in the Q&A, I'll admit I'm trying to figure out a way to make up for the fact that we need to be able to move into that Q&A.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
So beyond families, we have our district-wide partners with like the Maryland Food Bank, Wacomico Partnership for Family and Children. We have our school-based mentoring program, which is the Wacomico Mentoring Project, but we also have our school collaborative teams that actively engage families. We've got 23 community schools, each with a community school coordinator, our 22 people personnel workers, and we also have faith-based partnerships within the schools. And district-wide, we also have a family engagement specialist who develops and sets our family success nights, and also our senior application nights and career and technology nights and so forth throughout the school year.
Great. Joelle, let's shift to that slide for you too, and let's just show a quick of what some of the other kinds of partners who are here.
And we have things that are quite similar to others, and have some community partners. We have Kids Club and Swerve. Those are two community partners that provide meals during the summer. Also provide school supplies, backpacks, those types of things for kids. Kids Club is more of a wraparound daycare, provides some opportunities for kids. We work with the United Way and the Shriners. We have a food pantry on site. We also partner with some mental health therapists so that they can come into schools, and kids don't need to leave school to go see their therapists. They can see them on site and minimize the amount of class time that they're missing. We have Season of Sharing with a lot of our faith-based and community organizations. So we have a very responsive community who supports us and understands the needs.
And I'm going to ask you to turn off this part. And I want to, there are a number of questions in the chat that are asking about the situation with ICE raids, and feeling that that's having a really detrimental impact on their attendance.
Went out from the schools, and some parents had the know-how, some parents didn't have the know-how, but we used our pupil personnel workers to kind of to facilitate. We also, if they come into the school, we also use our front office staff to help facilitate them, to make sure that they're getting the right codes, that they have the right email address on file. So yeah, at first it was kind of a challenge because the logistics didn't quite seem to make sense, but overall we saw a huge uptick in the family engaging and making sure that they're receiving the messages in their home languages. And it's been really beneficial, but just getting over that first barrier, sometimes it just takes a friendly face and somebody that you know to make sure that that you're getting online and you're getting the information that you need.
All right.
They've
Another.
answered
Yeah, go ahead.
a lot of the questions. I mean, do you, I mean, family engagement is always obviously a big part of this. Were you guys deeply committed to family engagement even before you started taking on this attendance issue? And how are you ensuring that that will kind of last as best you can?
I'll answer that if that's okay. Thank you. In California, our schools, our strategic plan is our local control accountability plan. And within this LCAP, one of our goals is family and community engagement. So it is part of our strategic plan for our school district, and we allocate funding to support that.
Kwesi, I'm just going to add a little bit to Lindsay. So I think the research that I showed before, that the schools that said they got better family engagement actually had reduced chronic absence, particularly, let's say, for English language learners, which might be these immigrant families that we're talking about, some of them, kindergarten parent. But if we can show that connection, at least in states where you're funded by average daily attendance, it costs $77 every time a kid misses schools. On average in California, the district gets $77 less. So it's a pretty good translate. I mean, I think when you talk to families, you don't want to talk about money because then they think that's all the reason why you're wanting their kids. You want to talk about why you want kids to be there for their own health and well-being. But when you're talking to district administrators, you need to make it a priority. If you're both helping keep kids engaged, but the other thing we're going to hopefully have research on too is we have evidence that shows kindergarten chronic absence predicted lower re-enrollment in the same district. So all of those places that are districts funded based on enrollment, your future sustainability is making sure the kids keep showing up and re-enrolling in your districts. There might be a financial argument to be made about the power of family engagement for ensuring economic financial stability for districts.
For sure. And a new question came in that's, I think, relevant, and perhaps Joellen, you can start with that first. But how do you get teacher buy-in? I think what was unique about your strategy is you had a lot of involvement of teachers in these task forces. But so maybe you can say a little bit about why teachers and how they reacted to that. And then I'd love to hear from Tara, James, and if we have time, Lindsay, on teacher buy-in on this issue.
And as I shared earlier, we came in through the teaching and learning lens. And so I was able to show a lot of data that showed, the learning that happens here is directly correlated to how often kids are in school. And teachers like to have strong achievement scores. And so they were seeing declines there, and they were seeing a tight correlation between kids not being there and achievement going down. And my message to them was, you do a great job of teaching, but the kids have to be here in order to benefit from that. And so that is how we got the teacher buy-in, is that they knew they would have improved achievement data if more kids were in school, and that did happen. So that was our entry path into that conversation.
And Tara and James, how did you guys work on teacher buy-in?
I would say similar to what Joellen said, you kind of have to get that start to the buy-in, and that start conversation is really about the impact to teachers, their teaching and instruction in their classroom as a whole when students are chronically absent, because it impacts, their speed of teaching. You got to stop to slow down. You got to get the student their makeup work, and so sometimes the pacing has to change and they've got to do extra work. So really getting them involved in that buy-in is a win-win for them. So kind of just messaging it that way. But also, obviously the impacts to academics that come from that. And so just getting them to be a part of the PSAs that we're doing, the Arrive to Thrive campaign, getting that message out through talking points from teachers, not just from administrators, not just from PPWs, not just from homeschool liaisons, but also from the classroom teacher is just critical, because that's that direct connection to the family most of the time.
And Hetty, we're almost out of time, so I know you had one question you wanted to answer about cost calculation, which is maybe useful for folks, and then we'll just enough time to wind down and close out.
Okay, I just want to tell you what costs is going to totally vary by state. Every state has different formulas. There are only about 7 states that actually fund based on average daily attendance, but the enrollment cost. So that is actually something that if you're worried about this in your state, you should try to figure out what's the way that you can do that. I happen to live in California, so I'm a little more familiar with how to do that. But that is a key thing that I think everyone working on this issue might want to figure out. How do they quantify the costs in their state and in their districts?
For sure. And every place has a clear formula. Well, I do want to thank profusely our panel of experts. They've more than made the case of how important family and community engagement, and they each are in a slightly unique context in terms of their states. They have states that have invested in these issues in a variety of ways, and they've taken best advantage of that. And so, of course, you can't say, well, my state is not investing, so therefore I can't do anything. You've got to have just the opposite, which is investigate, find out what avenues are already available to you to take advantage of these kinds of strategies and to make them work for you. Attendance Works has some new chronic health guidance resources and lots of questions around health related issues in chronic absence. So please check out these resources. Next slide. And yes, everyone will get a link to the slides. We'll get a link to this webinar. We'll get links to the relevant resources. So you'll have it within a couple of days. These are some of the specific kind of flyers on back to school packets, use of technology, staff and parent meetings, peer-to-peer messaging. So lots of stuff here for you to use and adapt. Next slide. Learning Heroes, one of our partners, Go Beyond Grade, support your child's success this year. They have a new website for you to take advantage of with some tools that you should consider using. Next slide. And you'll be able to see Hetty and her team and all of us at this year's conference, the National Community Schools and Family Engagement Conference. I should say next year because it's 2026, May 27th to 29th in Long Beach, California. You can use the QR code to get some more information on early registration, or just stand by because we'll send everyone information on that, and we'll be looking at these and many other related issues. Next slide. Please do promote the campaign, sign up, have your district sign up, have your elected officials sign up, have anybody who has anything to do with this issue and interested in being part of the solution, sign up here today, ready for tomorrow, join the campaign and receive regular updates. You can sign up at the Attendance Works website for sure. And feel free to share, post, include us in all of your information. Next slide. And within a couple of days, we say 72 hours, so don't hold it to us if it's 75 hours instead. But you will receive a link to this webinar and all the webinars in the series, as well as all of the relevant resources within a few days. And everyone who's registered, whether they participated live, will receive it. So we encourage you to share that and to use them. Next slide. I think that's it. Thanks. Please let us know how we can improve. QR code, SurveyMonkey link. We can always do better. Let us know your thoughts, but don't feel shy about sharing the successes around this either. Next slide. Special thanks to our philanthropic partners, the Heising Simons Foundation, the Overdeck Foundation, and our individual donors. Next slide. I think that's it. Is that the final slide? No more slides. That means we've had a successful webinar. Hetty, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to thank our amazing group of panelists one more time. Yes. And thank you, Kwesi and Jaden, for hosting this with us. We so deeply appreciate your partnership.
It's been a great year, a great campaign, and this is a critically important issue. And so we look forward to continuing to work with all of you going forward. And thanks again to everyone, and to Hetty and the Attendance Works team, without whom this isn't possible. Take care, folks. Stay safe.